1, 2, 3.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Central Coast Newspapers Video News. I'm Jackie Pearson and today we are joined by Matthew Wales. Matthew is the veteran 20-year president of the Woy Woy Peninsula Chamber of Commerce. Welcome Matthew, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks Jackie, a pleasure.
20 years for your sins. Why have you stayed in the chair so long?
I don't really know. It just seemed to evolve that way, but I think luckily I've had an extremely good executive behind me who have been happy to give me the opportunity to do what needs to be done and back me up when is necessary.
So tell me about the successes. Tell me about the Peninsula 20 years ago and where you believe the business community has evolved or revolved to.
I think the biggest change that we've seen over the last 20 years is the shift in the demographics on the peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly we are now getting a lot of younger families. We are getting people who are moving up from Sydney and discovering that the peninsula is a better place to live, a more affordable place to live, and gives them all of the opportunities that the Sydney metro area is denying them at the moment. So that has been a very positive thing for the peninsula and has also resulted in a lot more disposable income entering the local economy.
Mm-hmm.
It's seen an escalation in housing prices, a rise in rents, and overall that has meant that the peninsula has become a very popular, a very relatively affordable area, and an area that's been attracting younger people that actually have money in their pockets.
Two things, it's also beautiful. It's a beautiful place, the
It
peninsula,
is.
in my humble opinion. And there are also pockets of it, particularly around Booker Bay and Ettalong, that are boomer retirement havens, which is almost like a gentrification.
The peninsula is a beautiful area. We have arguably some of the best beaches on the eastern seaboard, or what's left of some of the beaches.
We'll get to that,
and we will get to that. But it is a beautiful area. We have very safe beaches, we have beautiful waterways, we have parks and reserves that are extremely accessible. We're surrounded by a national park, and the big plus of the peninsula is that it's flat. The roads are all in a grid pattern. It's easy to get around the peninsula, and as a result that makes it a very attractive place for people to come and stay.
Within that description, though, are also some of the weaknesses and threats and challenges. It's a sand plain, and I don't think people understand what that means. It's very close to sea level, and we are seeing, or have been seeing, at least for the 3 years that I've been here out of your 20, lots of problems around erosion, our beach access, our amenity. Do you want to speak to those?
It is a constant problem of ensuring that our roads, drainage, footpaths, beaches and community facilities are upgraded. And I guess if I have a regret, it's that we've never had a council, whether it's the old Gosford Council or the new Central Coast Council, that has taken the peninsula seriously when it comes to spending infrastructure funds.
Why? I mean, there's it's a big population area. There's lots of people housed on the peninsula.
It absolutely baffles me that they seem to think that the peninsula is nothing more than a cash cow for rates, and they can go spend it somewhere else. I can't explain that philosophy, but clearly the councils have always taken that view. Considering that the peninsula has a population of around 38,000 people, and it equates for about 30% of the rate base from the old Gosford Council, so it's a big chunk of money. But we forever never seem to get, in our view, a fair cut of the rates pie.
As a consequence, we've got an ongoing problem with the navigation channel into Brisbane water. and we've got a cliff face and actual beach infrastructure that is now collapsing.
Disappearing on us.
Yeah. So
this to me is symptomatic of how the council view the peninsula. The ocean beachfront in particular has been in such a bad state of repair, a disgraceful state of repair for nearly 12 months. And the council seemed...
Longer.
They seem to be paralysed, unable to do anything about it.
Well, that's what I can't understand. We've got a coastal zone management plan that was signed off over 12 months ago by the minister. And, you know, that old saying that we must refer to in Australia, that local government is simply an arm of the state government. We've got a council that was actually created by the current state government. Why can't the two of them work together? And we were promised, as part of amalgamation, that we would be looked after. That was certainly my understanding as a ratepayer.
I have repeatedly said on the record, I don't care who pays for it. Whether it's rates or state taxes, it's still our money. So local council and the state government need to get their act together and come up with a long-term solution for the re-nourishment and regeneration of our beachfront and the dredging of the Ettalong Channel. They simply have to do it. I don't think it's a lack of will or understanding on the New South Wales state government's part. I've read this legislation. I've been provided with information from the state government where they clearly take the view that it is the council's responsibility for maintaining that estuary. The council have a different view. They have gone off and got their own legal advice, and they say it's the state government's responsibility. What annoys me is that if they believe their legal advice to be that good, why aren't they making it public?
Well, there is that, but there's also the fact that the channel's been neglected for a lot longer than this council has existed, and the passing of the buck between state and local has been a long-standing issue between Gosford.
Jackie,
but also the Rescuing Our Waterways Fund, which is $6 million from the Tweed down to...
Oh, it's not enough.
Is not enough.
It's clearly not enough. And the council, the old Gosford Council, the former Gosford Council, have in the past always participated in co-funding of the dredging.
Right.
Whether it's a Labor-controlled council or a Liberal-controlled government or vice versa, they've always come up with that partnership arrangement. So I get annoyed when today we are arguing over co-funding these works when in the past that's always taken place.
Okay.
Now, it's unfair to ratepayers, particularly on the peninsula, for the council to get into a political bun fight with the New South Wales government simply because we're heading up towards a state election in March next year over who pays for the dredging.
Right.
And it's a sad indictment that the council had to be taken kicking and screaming to the public forum in order to get them to agree to putting in a compliant application. That's all the government has asked them to do. Put in a compliant application, we'll give you the money.
But not enough money.
Well, here we go.
Because I think you said you think at least
look,
$5 million to actually
yes.
get it to a stage where it's maintainable.
But the government has said to me in the past that if the council came up with a plan and the money required to do that dredging and rescuing of that estuary was more than what was available in the current Rescuing Our Waterways funding package, they would look at other ways to fund it.
So long as they co-fund, so long as it's dollar for dollar.
As long as they co-fund it.
Okay, all right, so if you look at the current position of the business community and the broader community on the peninsula, give me the three biggest challenges and how you solve them.
One of our biggest challenges is obviously our roads. The peninsula, the roads on the peninsula have becoming very, very busy. Not only because of increased population on the peninsula itself, but more and more people increasingly are using the peninsula as a way of getting onto the freeway or getting to the rail station. So we get a lot of people from the Budai area, from Kincumber, from those northern beaches coming through, parking at Woy Woy, hopping on a train. So our roads are congested, and the Chamber has been pushing hard with the government to allocate funds to upgrade roads. Our biggest challenge is the Rawson Road, Ocean Beach Road roundabout, which is an absolute basket case.
So signaliser?
I believe it needs to be a set of traffic lights.
Right.
The cost to put in a roundabout and the effectiveness of roundabout would be astronomical, but traffic lights have to go there. And we have to replace the rail crossing at Rawson Road.
Okay, and do you need a new link to the M1?
I don't believe we do. I think we can do other things without having to carve up a national park to link up with the freeway.
Okay.
I'm not a big supporter of that. One of the benefits of living on the peninsula is that we have that buffer with the national park. So I think there are other options that we need to consider, including a ferry link to Sydney.
Okay,
from Ettalong
high-speed ferry
I
from Ettalong.
Yep, I do believe that is one of the long-term solutions.
Carrying on to Gosford, or you're not so worried about Gosford?
Not so worried about that because you've got navigation problems and speed limits through Brisbane Water, but certainly I think that link to Ettalong is a long-term part of the long-term solution.
Okay, just one more question. I'm interested. You looked forward with optimism to the Central Coast Council. Do you now want the Peninsula to have its own? Do you want to secede?
I'd love to have a Peninsula Council, but it'll never happen, unfortunately.
Well, there's enough people. I mean, you compare, the population with regional towns.
We shouldn't laugh about that, but because of the way that the Peninsula does get treated by the council in general, a lot of people do say, well, why don't we have our own council?
Yeah. Boom gates on the bridge.
Well, yes, and visas. We shouldn't joke, but I think we have to accept that amalgamations of councils, unfortunately, is the long-term solution to local government. We have a formula that should work through this amalgamation. My view is that we have a very dyslectic group of councillors, a wide range of political views,
oh yes,
a wide range of agendas, and I think that is what is making things difficult at the moment, particularly for development, meeting population targets and revitalising town centres.
So what about wards or smaller precincts? What about different ways of interfacing so that you do get that grassroots level of representation feeding up?
Well, originally I was not a supporter of wards. I did change my view on that leading up to the local government elections. I now have the view that I don't believe it's working particularly well. I think it tends to make areas parochial rather than have councillors representing the interests of the broader Central Coast area. So there are some up and downsides to wards, but I think it is early days, and I think we have to be fair and allow the process to settle down, let the politics settle down, and allow the councillors who are there now to gain some experience, and hopefully in the next 12
before they run off to state parliament.
Well, obviously there are a few other agendas there. We've got a number of councillors have bigger aspirations, but that's always been the case. But I think we just need to let the system sort itself out for a while before we do be too judgmental about its effectiveness. But we have some major challenges which unfortunately have been reflected on how the peninsula is being treated both fiscally and politically at the moment.
All right, well, we'll have you back in 20 years to find out how it's all gone. Thank you so much for your time, Matthew Wales.
Pleasure. Thank you.